Oftentimes, when I hear a husband say, "She doesn't respect me," my knee jerk reaction is to ask him the question, "Do you respect yourself?" In Ephesians 5, we see Paul talking about the higher standard of living that husbands and wives that are noted as believers should be living up to. Particularly in verse 33 of chapter 5, it talks about the husbands loving the wife as he loves himself. So to me, this connotates that a man must love himself first before he can love his mate in the proper way. It also shows how love summons respect. Romans 12 does teach us not to think highly of ourselves than we ought, but I want you to pay attention to that word ought, because translated that means as necessary, according to God's will and obedience to God's plan. You see, God's design was for us to walk confidently through Him, not cocky through ourselves. When someone doesn't love themselves and see themselves with the proper vision through God's eyes and value on their life, it shows and manifests in sinful things within their life, like this. We overcompensate by being consumed with our pride and our self-image to other people. We often, in our striving to be perfect, deflect any accountability. We don't want to be accountable for things. Therefore, we don't want to acknowledge when we make mistakes. We can be abusive, whether through actions or words, and maybe that's because we don't feel worthy of love, or in our mind, we talk down to ourselves all day long and then are confused why others are saying we talk down to them. So basically, when we don't have a love for ourselves, a healthy love in the eyes of God and understanding who we are, whose we are, and our mission on earth, then sometimes what happens is we also don't draw nigh to God to live in obedience to what He's calling us to do in loving other people. A lack of self-worth and love will overcompensate and be abusive to our mate, or it will demand from our mate instead of checking the reality, are we living worthy of the respect that we're wanting? A spouse that loves God and loves their self in a healthy way and not an overinflated way to compensate for the lack of self-worth will often make sure that they're living in obedience to their leadership role, because a real leader knows that he himself needs to be led. So often when I see a lack of respect in a marriage, there's two things that are happening. One, there is a lack of self-worth in the mate, and they're trying to get that self-worth from their spouse instead of God. Or two, they have an overinflated sense of worth, and they're ignoring the commandments of God that are supposed to bring about the respect.